I like that point about education. I think the other part would be, which is one above that, is guys got to get involved in politics and office. They got to get involved there as well. I think some of the guys from the crypto community have to get involved in political, arenas, Congress, Senate, governor, even some being inspired to go into presidency. Look at the president of El Salvador, what kind of an edge he has. I think the strategy for a guy like you going and talking, maybe a part of it is also inspiring some of these other guys who want to pursue politics. Because, most of the world, when we think about, oh my gosh, Warren Buffett, he doesn't believe in Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, Bill Gates is against Bitcoin. Peter Schiff says Bitcoin's going to zero, which I believe you said in 2013 Bitcoin's going to zero, but you flipped. You started educating and getting a little bit more clear, and then you went to a different direction. Even Munger recently said, Charlie Munger said the following. He says, I wish it, and this was last week, I wish it had been banned 2 weeks ago. Immediately, and I admired the Chinese for banning it. Can you imagine Charlie Munger, a capitalist, agreeing with China? Munger said Wednesday at Daily Journal Corp annual meeting, which was held virtually, I certainly didn't invest in crypto. I'm proud of the fact I've avoided it. It's like a venereal disease or something. I just regard it as beneath contempt. The 98-year-old billionaire has been long critical of Bitcoin, previously calling it rat poison. And he just certainly the great short squeeze in GameStop was wretched excess. Certainly the Bitcoin thing is wretched excess. I would argue that venture capital is throwing too much money too fast, and there are considerable wretched excess in venture capital and other forms of private equity. He just doesn't stop. He keeps going and going and going. So the world looks at these guys, the people who have been influencers in the finance world for a while, who are totally against it. And then somebody sits there and says, well, I trust Buffett more than I do Michael Saylor. Why should I believe these guys that are talking about Bitcoin?
What you're seeing is a shockwave moving through the culture. You're seeing the most disruptive force in the world right now, and it's slamming into people and institutions faster than they can absorb it and appreciate it and understand it. And this is like shockwaves in the real world, right? If I move an airfoil through the air faster than the speed of sound is the rate at which air communicates with itself. The air can't get out of the way. I pound into it. I create massive turbulence and noise. The way to solve it is you go slower, but then you're not supersonic. Charlie Munger wasn't an advocate of Apple Computer, right? How about Amazon, right? How about Microsoft, right? Warren Buffett's a friend of Bill Gates for how many years, and he still hasn't bought Microsoft stock? And Microsoft is an idea that was, fairly well understood 40 years ago, 30 years ago. So what you have is something so powerful that everyone's being asked to have an opinion, right? Presidents, the president of Russia, the president of most nation states, they're asked to have an opinion. Every investor's asked to have an opinion. But what if I told you couldn't really understand it without 100 hours of time invested? How many people after the age of 40 spend 100 hours studying anything? Once you get to, how about age of 65?
You don't think a Munger, Buffett, Gates, these guys spent 100 hours studying Bitcoin?
Aren't you sure they didn't? Isn't it obvious? I would say it's almost certain that he hasn't spent 10 hours. And so I would say the same with most macro investors, though, right now. You know what? I would say the same with a lot of crypto investors. The world is full of... Okay, how many people... I see it because I see it in my feed. Most people in the crypto space haven't spent 100 hours studying this. How many people have spent 100 hours studying the stock that they hold in their portfolio?
True.
How many people spend 100 hours studying Facebook?
Yeah, but based on what you're saying, you don't need to study Bitcoin. Just trust you and buy Bitcoin.
No, he's not saying that.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I spent 1,000 hours before
what I'm saying is you're basically saying, look, I've done the research. You don't need to do it yourself. Just buy Bitcoin and hold it for 100 years. Have a great day. Bye. It's basically what you're saying.
I'm actually saying that people should do the research until they get the conviction necessary to make their own decision. Look, at the end of the day, this is property. I'm not promoting my own security. I'm not promoting an exchange. I'm basically suggesting go west, young man, get some land, right? It's like go to America, right? Get some property and make a life for yourself. But you decide whether you're wanting to do that or not. Here's the more important point, though. It's every single influential person in the world is being asked to have an opinion, but they're not spending 100 hours on the opinion. If I roll the clock back 100 years and I went to every politician and every rich person in the world in the year 1900 and I asked them what they thought about electricity, what do you think they'd say?
Right.
How about airplanes in the year 1904? What was the opinion then? So it's not unreasonable, and I don't think we should be spending a lot of time fixating upon the opinions of famous and powerful and rich people about a technology that they have not chosen to make a focal point of their interest.
Well, especially when they're 98 years old, Mike.
I think
that has to be a factor.
I think the more important point is everybody thinks for themselves, right? So you wouldn't go to Charlie Munger and ask him to pick out stocks in your name every winning stock in the past decade. Netflix, Google,
Fang.
Apple, Facebook, Amazon. How many of them were recommended to you by any of these people that you're getting opinions on? None of the Bitcoin antagonists or critics would have recommended or did recommend any of those stocks, right? So it's kind of a moot point. It's really just marketing or sparks that are being sent up, because what happens is these guys in the media, they interview them and they want to get a rise out of them, so they actually throw this out there. Nobody's asking Warren Buffett's opinion of silver or gold right now because no one's interested in hearing the answer.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.